Hey everyone, this is Renee Frey from Talent Q, and you're listening to the Conscious Professional Podcast. Last week, I talked about setbacks and how to kick right through them and keep going. I also shared how setbacks can be turned into tremendous opportunities for personal growth. Along the same lines of setbacks, this week I'm talking about getting passed up for a promotion. This is totally related to a career setback. Well, what feels like one for a lot of people. I'm sure some of you listening can relate to being passed up for a promotion. There is so much emotion that goes on when this happens. You think you're working hard. You're on track for a promotion. You're doing all the things. You're going above and beyond your job responsibilities. You have proved that you've earned it and you're ready and you believe your promotion is right around the corner. And then whoosh, your boss promotes someone else on your team. You feel a huge slap in the face. Then the emotions and ego come raging in. Why wasn't I promoted? What did I miss? What didn't I do? Where did I fall short? And then I'm better than that person that got promoted. My metrics are better than that person. My overall performance is higher. And the comparison and judgment all comes out, which is totally your ego talking, by the way. And I've been there. I've been there in the past too. I've been passed up for a promotion. When I worked for Target Corporation, from the time I started my career there, for the first 3 years, I did everything my leaders asked of me. I exceeded my metrics. I always went above and beyond and asked for more work. I worked on special projects. I helped out with national conferences and traveled to participate, to build relationships, recruit attendees at these conferences. And leading up to these conferences, we had tons of meetings and additional work on top of our regular jobs. And once we were at the conference, I remember those days. They were so long. We'd have a huge fancy booth branded all things Target. I'd be on my feet for hours talking with hundreds of people all day long, which I loved. But working these conferences was super exhausting. It was nonstop. Go, go, go for 2 or 3 days straight. Not to mention having to travel there, sleep in a hotel, and be away from my family. Now, let me share a philosophy I learned early on in my professional career. As an employee of a company, I believed I was just a number. I was just a number in the huge machine, and at any time, my position could be eliminated. Now, this philosophy didn't change who I was as an employee. Well, it might have a little bit, but as a high achiever, I still wanted to be the best employee and perform at the highest levels that I could. My perspective of realizing I'm just a number was very real. And my philosophy was that I knew I needed to stand up for myself and for what I wanted to do in my career because no one else was going to do that for me. And this is the lens I've always had for my career. I'm in the driver's seat of my career. It belongs to me. I want all of you to get in the driver's seat of your career like I did and believe that your career starts with you. You are in charge. A lot of times at companies, people feel like they aren't in charge of their careers, but you are. We give up control sometimes to appease our managers and go along in doing what's in the best interest of the company, oftentimes losing sight of what's in the best interest for ourselves. And I'm here to tell you, your career belongs to you. Your career belongs to you. You may need courage to maintain this stance, but your career belongs to you. Now, I know all too well that there are situations where your manager is tapping you on the shoulder, making suggestions on which role you should take next internally to better your career. And sometimes their ideas are great. Other times, they might actually set you back in your career aspirations. So these are the moments you need to get real clear and evaluate what you want for your career. In every company, there are corporate politics. It's because there are a lot of people involved that come with different beliefs. Some people come with agendas. We've all worked with the manager, who was only looking out for themselves, climbing the ladder as fast as they could. Hopefully, you've worked with fantastic leaders who actually want to see you grow and develop and get promoted at the company. These leaders are the best, and I've been lucky enough to have worked for several of them. Leaders know way more than we do at the company, right? They're having meetings with other leaders behind closed doors with the executives about talent management and talent moves. And most companies have a very sophisticated process around internal talent planning, which is great. But as employees, the worker bees, we have zero insights into those meetings. Again, we are the number in the machine. After roughly working at Target for about 2 years, my title at the time was senior recruiter. I was constantly discussing with my boss what my next career move should be. And most people moved around the company at Target every 2 years in recruiting. And at the time, I worked for an amazing leader. She had shared there were openings in most of the business areas that I could pivot to and recruit for. And she knew my long-term career goal was to get promoted to the executive recruiter level, which was the next step up for me. And I had confidence that she was advising me on the right move to eventually achieve this promotion. So down the road, eventually, she recommended that supporting the merchandising department would be the best, as it was the heart and soul of Target's business. And because the following year, Target had a huge task of hiring 40 buyers. And I was a skilled recruiter and could help them achieve those targets. My leader knew this. So I agreed to move to that team. Totally cool. It was awesome to learn about new business areas of Target. I got to recruit for profiles I'd never recruited for in the past. And I got to meet the execs who run the company, because merchandising includes all of the people who are selecting the products that are going on those shelves in the stores, which was so cool. So once I'm supporting merchandising, the first boss I had leaves the company. Our whole team gets shifted under a temporary leader until they can find a backfill for my old boss. And eventually they do. And finally, we have some stability in our leadership after having 3 leaders in less than a year, which sucks. When you have multiple changes in who you're reporting to, once I'm supporting the merchandising department, The first boss I had leaves the company. Our whole team gets shifted under a temporary leader until they can find a backfill for my old boss. Eventually they do, and we have some stability after having 3 leaders in less than 1 year, which sucks. When you have multiple changes in who you're reporting to in that short period of time, it can be so very challenging. You have to pivot from different leadership styles. You have to build rapport and a new relationship with the new leader. You have to figure out what their expectations are, all while continuing to perform your job, right? Yes. The new leader we were assigned was promoted internally, so she knew all about target and recruiting. And I continued my career development conversations with her about my desire to be promoted to executive recruiter. And at this time, I was very specific in asking, what do I need to do to get there? Because I wanted to achieve a promotion as fast as I could. I was super, super eager at the time. So later on, I had my second daughter, and I was coming back to work after maternity leave. And my first week back was actually the week we got our annual performance reviews. So I was so excited. I totally thought I was going to get promoted. Not to mention, the director of the recruiting team swung over to welcome me back, and he asked if I had my review yet. And I had said no. And he said, "You're going to be so thrilled, Renee." And I was like, yes, I'm getting promoted. And he said some words I'll never forget. He said, "While you were out on leave, Renee, there was a huge gap. We are so glad you're back." Oh, I was so delighted. My heart was full. How often do you get to hear that at work? So anyway, fast forward to my review. I went to my boss's office and she closed the door. She told me what an awesome job I did that year with my performance, and they were so delighted that they decided to give me a performance bonus, a monetary bonus. And I was excited about that, but the big thing was I found out I wasn't getting promoted. So I thanked her for the bonus and the kind words, and I walked out of her office, and I literally had smoke coming out of my ears because I didn't get promoted. I was fuming. I was actually so emotional. I had to leave the office and totally take a breather. Normally, I'm not a crier at work, but as soon as I left the building, the tears were flowing. I couldn't hold them back. So I called my husband on the phone, and he's like, "Renee, catch your breath, pull yourself together." I was so pissed because up until this point, I did everything my managers wanted me to do. I followed along with their recommendations on which teams to move to. I exceeded the metrics we were all measured on. I did every single thing Target had asked of me. And I still didn't get promoted. So I pulled myself back together. I walked back to the office and I came up with a game plan. I reminded myself this is my career. So I asked my manager if I could chat with her in her office. Mind you, this is the very same day I had my annual review with her. So we sit down in her office and I communicate with her in a diplomatic, non-emotional way. I share that I've done everything Target's asked of me. I moved to the teams that they suggested. I attended conferences, I've mentored junior recruiters, and kept going with all of my facts to support my case. I wrap up by letting her know at this time I was expecting to be promoted, and I'd like to know why I wasn't promoted. I legit needed her to talk me off the ledge at this point because I was ready to look for another job. And I'm sure you can tell, I don't shy away from conflict. I never have. I'm a confident person who can handle anything. So my manager started talking about the person who was promoted. Wah, 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 was pretty much all I heard coming out of her mouth. Because at this point, I could give 2 shits about who was promoted and why. All I wanted to know was where I missed the mark and what the hell do I have to do to get promoted. So we end our conversation. Here's what happens the very next day. My manager comes to my desk, asks me to join her in her office. Of course, I listen to her and follow her into her office and sit down. She says, "Renee, I have great news. there's an executive recruiter role open on the SWAT team. And I know what you're all thinking. SWAT team? No, it's not a SWAT team with bulletproof vests where we carry weapons. SWAT at Target meant you were the elite recruiters who went in and out of different business departments to help where the business needs were the greatest. So we would pop into areas that were having a huge spike in hiring needs, or where recruiters needed support with really difficult to fill positions, like the needle in a haystack positions. This was actually the team I wanted to be on, so I could bounce all around the company, learn more profiles to recruit for, and expand my knowledge on the business. This was my dream team. Clearly, in my situation, it wasn't that I wasn't ready to get promoted. It was that they only had a certain number of promotions to give, and I wasn't prioritized at that time, right? So my manager let me know that the manager of the SWAT recruiting team was on vacation, but they'd talk to him when he gets back. And I was so friggin' excited. I was re-engaged in my work instantly. I was re-engaged at the company in an instant. Dialed in on exactly getting what I wanted. So let's go back to the moment when you're passed up for a promotion. There are numerous things that you can do. You can stand up and fight for yourself. Not literally fight, but stand up and have the courage to communicate what you want for your career. Or be pissed off, fuming, and do nothing about it and stay right where you are. You could also quit your job. You could also start looking for a new job. All these things are options that you can choose. Now, if you don't do anything about it, if you don't speak up, and you just sit and complain and wallow in your frustration, chances are you're going to be disengaged with the work you're doing. You're going to be less interested in going above and beyond, and your performance on the job will go down. And if your performance drops, people will notice, which can ultimately hurt you long term for your career growth. What if the SWAT team didn't have an opening for me? My next move would have been to ask my leader for a clear action plan with an assigned mentor to help me grow in the gaps that I needed to fill to finally achieve executive recruiter level, as well as some measurement of time around it to be assured that the next annual review time, if I hit these targets, the promotion would happen. This would have helped me stay engaged and excited about my job and career at Target. If this hadn't happened, if they couldn't give me a clear timeline of if I meet this, then I will be promoted, I would have been looking for a different team to pivot to, a new manager to work for, or I would have started a job search and found a new company to work for. If you find yourself in a situation where you're passed up for a promotion and they can't give you a clear timeline or clear measurables to achieve for that promotion, there's a lot you can do. My very first suggestion is to get your mindset straight. You gotta keep performing to your highest level in your role. You've gotta be engaged on the job while you're there during the workday. You gotta keep your complaints to yourself. Then you have several options. You could try to move internally and change teams so you can have a different manager, because a different manager may see things in you that the previous one didn't. They may help you grow in different areas. A new manager could get you re-engaged and excited about your work and the company again. So that's one option. Another option is you could begin a job search. You could see what else is out there for you. Dust off your resume, get it updated, start reaching out to your network confidentially to see who can connect you with people who are hiring in your field specifically. You could start applying and interviewing and get a new job. Again, If you launch a new job search, my first suggestion is to get your mindset straight. Updating your resume sucks. Sending out application after application and getting the canned rejection email with zero explanation as to why you're not getting an interview sucks, and it's super frustrating. Not to mention, if a company ghosts you and doesn't even respond to your application. Let me tell you, it usually takes about 30 job applications to get one interview. So unless you're in sales, you are not used to this massive mountain of rejection headed your way. Everyone's situation when getting passed up from a promotion will be different. All I can say is whatever you choose to do, make sure to set your mind to keep performing in your current role. If you have to tell yourself on the way to work and throughout the day, I love my job, I love my job, I love my job. Convince yourself so you can perform. You got to keep the job you have because it's way easier to get a job when you have a job. So the key points from today's episode are how to set your mind right to come back stronger from a setback, and what happens when you don't ask for what you want in your career, how to make strategic moves within your company. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Share this episode and go make one change to be better than you were yesterday. Live your life with intention. I believe in you. I'm on a mission to help as many people as possible. So if you would, please leave a 5-star review. See you next week. Cheers, everyone.